Hello, hello. It's Marlene Chism, and it has been a while. I'm excited to be here today. We are going to talk about anger, and we're also going to be talking about how to maximize your capacity so that you don't trigger so often. And hi, I already see someone showing up. You don't need to log in, you're here. So I hope you can see the video. We had a little snafu the last time because there's some technical changes that LinkedIn is doing and I didn't get with the program. And so I still recorded it. If you missed it, it's on my YouTube channel. But I'm with the new program now, so here we are. And again, today we're going to be talking about how to minimize anger and maximize capacity. If you would, let me know that you're here, and I will recognize a few people and your questions and comments as we go through today. Hi, April. So glad you're here. Known April for a while. She's a regular. I really appreciate everyone that's regular here. So today we are going to talk about minimizing anger, not that anger is a bad thing. So I want to say something about that first. Most of us are ashamed of anger, and we think that we shouldn't be angry or that angry feelings are going to cause harm. But anger is just an energy trying to get our attention. It's energy that wants to go somewhere. And I certainly have had some blow ups. I still do occasionally. So I always say I will share my dirt to help other people because I believe if I have the problem, a lot of other people do. And so I'm really excited to share today's message. And I see some people checking in. So I'm going to say hi. Hi, Vicky. And if you all people coming on, let me know where you're from. Hi, Simone. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Crystal, glad you're here. Sylvia, we have someone from the UK. Felicia, and someone's new. Thank you, Jackie. Glad that you're here. I try to do this once a month. I'm going to go ahead and get started. People can keep checking in because this will show up on the stream later. And so I want to say this about anger. The weird thing about anger is this. When you're angry, when you finally hit your boiling point and you blow up, you trigger, you say something you wished you wouldn't have said, in that moment, your anger feels like you know the truth of the situation. And you feel like whatever you say was well-deserved, been a long time in coming. And so one of the things I say about anger is that anger is not the truth, but it's the fuel that can get you there. So today, I'm going to give you 5 solid techniques on how to maximize capacity and also manage and minimize your anger. And so checking in real quick again. Hi, Jackie from New York. From Romania. Hi there, Marina. We got someone from Egypt. This is really exciting to me to have people from all over because I know there's different cultures and I'm always open to learning. Hi, Muskan from India. I'm so glad you're here. A lot of first timers, really excited about that. Okay, so what is capacity? This is something I'm talking about in my book that's coming out in May. And capacity, the way that I'm talking about it, I've done a whole video on expanding capacity, but I talk about capacity from the understanding of your inner game, how you're feeling, your awareness, your thoughts, your outer game, which is your skills, and then there's the culture that you work in and what makes that possible to really be expansive so that you can feel anger but not act on it, act appropriately, deal with conflict, deal with your own thoughts that make you want to lash out, and really make a good decision when you use your anger. So we're going to talk about today how to maximize capacity. And I can honestly say to you, writing this book was one of the best things that's ever happened to me because I can tell my capacity is expanding. What I mean by that is I'm a lot more patient because I used to be a very impatient person. I was very quick with my words if I got triggered. I didn't get curious. I would shut down and become defensive. And this wasn't always noticeable in the professional world with the work that I do, but I'm telling you that to say that I use my own medicine. And so I'm going to give it to you today. Hi there, Salem from Dubai. Some more people from India. Hi there, Sindhija. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So capacity is this ability. And so when we minimize our capacity, it's because we keep having habits that don't work for us. And it makes us You know, you've heard the saying, neurons that fire together wire together. So if you're used to being defensive, you're building more connections for being defensive. If you're used to withholding and suppressing, you become resentful, and then that causes health problems. So when we minimize capacity, the way that we keep ourselves shrunken and small is when we blow up, when we continue to gossip about a problem that we haven't addressed, when we avoid the issues, and when we cut ties with the other person. Um, Someone said reverse counting no longer works. I get it, because there's certain techniques that you've tried it for a while, it worked at first, but now you're so angry you can't contain it. Here Raul says how to manage with the conflict, which will be a grudge, but don't come out at the workplace. So I'm going to interpret what you're saying is that how do you keep from holding grudges? That's a great question. And I say that because when we suppress, we do hold grudges. So I'm going to talk about this kind of a paradox about how to use anger by maximizing capacity. So stay tuned, because I've got 5 solid tips. How we maximize capacity is we stay in the conversation, we learn how to self-regulate so that we stay calm, and we speak directly with the person with whom we have the problem. That may be culturally different in some places. In fact, here in the US, most people really kind of avoid and sidestep and talk to other people. And I'm really here on this planet to help us have better conversations without blaming and judging and losing relationships. And a lot of times we do lose relationships because we get disrespectful whenever we have anger, whenever we have disagreements. And so what happens is we justify leaving the relationship because that feels better. And I want to share something that I saw on social media right after I check in right now. And hi there from the Ukraine. And we have someone from, got a lot of people from Saudi Arabia that join every now and then. So thank you. So I saw this meme. You've probably seen it on social media, and it gets a lot of likes and a lot of, yeah, that's right. And the meme or the little poster that is out there says, have the courage to walk away when respect is no longer being served. I like to always dissect things when I see something like that. And before just immediately agreeing, think about, is that always true, or what's the context, or is there a nuance? And people were saying, absolutely, I had to leave this relationship, or yes, that's true, I don't speak to this person anymore. And I said, you know, it's a great thought, but also have the courage to question uncertain motives. Because just because you've interpreted that someone is disrespecting you, maybe they're unaware. Give them a chance to course correct. That's my message. Sometimes it's very blatant. If it's name calling, if it's something like that, that's where you draw the line in the sand. But so often the real problem is our interpretation, and we don't have the courage to ask the question, what did you mean by that? When I hear that, that sounds this way to me. Is that what you intended? We're too uncomfortable, so we would rather just end the relationship. And the excuses that we give for not moving forward in the conversation is, the most common one is, I already know what they're going to say. Or they might say something like, well, I know that they're going to say you're just too sensitive. So what I want to say is the work that you have to do, because we all have our own work. It's not about worrying about what they're going to say. Of course, you know what they're going to say. You've been with them for a while. You've observed. So obviously, and so you do know what they're going to say, perhaps, but the truth is they haven't said it. So you really don't know for sure, because if you come from a different energy, chances are they may come from a different energy as well. So don't let yourself off the hook. Your job is to actually initiate the conversation and expand your capacity so that if they say the thing you thought they were going to say, you don't get triggered, that you allow that. You don't need them to be different. What I have found is that when you bring the elephant into the room, a lot of times the behavior changes, even if they say they never meant it that way. That's what I've learned. Because when you bring awareness to someone and have the courage to do that where someone else has not had the courage, then they continue to get by with the behavior and they never look inward. So you're gently handing someone a mirror and saying, did you mean to roll your eyes and interrupt me? That felt disrespectful. And when they say, oh, no, no, I was just excited, you're just too sensitive, you can say, perhaps I am, but I need to be able to finish what I'm talking about. And they will start to watch themselves. I guarantee it. We've got some other questions here. How do you help an angry person maximize capacity when they're angry? We're not going to be talking about that today. what I'm talking about today, I like the question, but today it's about what you can do for your own, because when we try too much to control another person, then we usually decrease our own capacity. So you might have to just set a boundary and say, I'll give you a little tip real quick. Let's talk about this tomorrow at 2. It sounds like we're both getting excited about this. Like, own part of it as well, and let them have a moment to get their breath. So, don't try to change them. Don't try to make them understand, because when someone's all hyped up, their adrenaline and their chemicals are just going on. You're not going to change them. So those are about setting boundaries, which, by the way, I'm going to be doing a program. It's going to be a paid program on setting boundaries. And so stay tuned for that. And if you would follow me on LinkedIn so that you'll get those reminders. I've got another question here. Uh, does meditation work for maintaining the control over anger? I'm going to say yes and no. I think it's going to take more than meditation, because it's easy to start suppressing and believing that you're controlling anger. Anger is one of those tricky feelings, emotions, however you want to describe it. It's one of those tricky experiences where we fool ourselves a lot. And so I've had a lot of executives that I've coached to say to me when we first start working together, I have an anger problem. And my general response is, anger might be causing you problems, but you don't have an anger problem. You probably have an awareness problem. So part of maximizing your capacity is more awareness, so that you know how long you've been irritated, or you start to understand those signs, both the physical, the mental, the stories you're telling yourself, and so on. Vicky's so excited on boundary setting. I've done a lot of work around that one, and I've been very good at setting good boundaries, and I can't wait to do that program. So that's coming up in the next few weeks. So just keep an eye out. So I'm going to give you the 5 techniques, and I'm going to show you a snapshot of what those are so you can follow along with me in an easier way. You can take a little snapshot with your phone if you want to. You can look at this later and take some notes. Someone asked, what does capacity mean here? I'm talking about the ability to expand yourself so that you can manage all the emotions, so that you have the capacity to handle the anger, the irritation, the impatience, that you know how to make good decisions even when you start to feel and notice those emotions. I have a video on expanding conflict capacity, which talks about the 3 elements. That is on my YouTube channel. You can go to Marlene Chism YouTube, and there's a whole video on that. It's going to be in the upcoming book, From Conflict to Courage. It is actually available right now for pre-sales. If you're worried that you're going to forget about it because it doesn't come out till May, you can go ahead and get it on Amazon right now, From Conflict to Courage, and they'll send it to you as soon as it comes out in May. So I'm going to show you just the 5 tips really quick, or they're more like techniques that we're going to talk about. So I know I'm hidden behind this banner, but this helps you to see it. So number 1 is feel it. Number 2, no triangles. Number 3, get clear. Number 4, release resistance. And number 5, represent yourself. Okay, so I'm going to expand on each one of those. Here's another question. How do I get over the lingering feelings of disrespect and therefore distrust with a colleague after we have the sticky conversations? Yeah, how do I get over it myself? Suzanne, it's a lifetime of work, but it is about being honest with that other person to let them know what your experience is and to ask for what you want. So hang with me on these 5 tips, because if you don't heal the relationship, you can still agree to get along, but if the trust's not there, there's going to be more triggers. That's just the reality. You can try all kinds of things, but if you still don't trust someone, it's not going to be a pleasant working experience. So let's talk about the first one, feel it. You have to stop pretending. You have to stop pretending that you don't feel what you feel. You have to quit making yourself wrong. You feel anger, you feel irritation, you feel resentment. So you have to start noticing what you feel. And that is not only the physical, like maybe your heart rate speeds up, or maybe you have certain thoughts about they shouldn't do this to me. Start to really feel it and create space. One of the best audiobooks I've ever read is The Untethered Soul, or I guess listen to The Untethered Soul. It has helped me expand capacity a lot, because I will tell you this: when you're used to shutting down feelings, you don't notice when they're there. When you get used to playing with your feelings and letting yourself feel you're going to feel. Sometimes you do feel like you're going to explode, or that it feels like so much anxiety. But once you let the energy process through your body, you start expanding to where you're no longer triggered. It's really an amazing experience. Um, Here's someone that says, how can we still resolve the issue if we've cut ties or are feeling like it's good to avoid it? Well, just hang with me, because those are just ways to protect yourself. You're just scared. You're scared to address it. And there's good reason why you're afraid, but this is what this is about. It's about expanding. We've already talked about that. Okay. So you just have to feel it. That's the first thing. Now, here's the trick with this part. When we start learning new ways of being, there's a pendulum that swings from side to side. Because when you suppress emotions, you eventually get resentment, or you get illness, and you get depression. If you react, though, and you learn to react right when you're hot, you do things you regret, and then you're so ashamed of yourself. So the key is this: you have to feel it. And when you've dealt with it, and you've dealt with your emotions and your feelings and your thoughts, what happens is sometimes it all dissipates. So you feel like the story you tell yourself is, I don't need to address this now. I don't need to address it because I feel better. So the key is to understand that when you feel it, it's telling you something. It still means you need to address it, even though you feel better, because what we do is we avoid once we feel better. So that's sort of the paradox of feeling anger, is you've got to feel it and then decide how to use it, maybe at a later time when you feel a little bit better and it doesn't seem so important. So that is your conscious mind taking over and making a good decision. The second one is what I call no triangles. No triangles means, like, let me say what a triangle is. A lot of my work from the beginning with my first book, Stop Workplace Drama, was based on the drama triangle. The drama triangle is a model that shows relationship patterns of victim, persecutor, and rescuer. And that when we're in dysfunctional relationships, you'll see these three ways of performing, behaving. Orientation is what the author, Dr. Stephen Cartman, originally called it. And what happens with triangles is, I'm mad at you, but I go tell Suja, that I'm about me being mad at you, but I don't talk to you. So I start gossiping to let out my anger and my frustration, and I get social proof, I get agreement. So the no triangles means that you go to the person, that you don't allow yourself the pleasure of talking about someone behind their back. You don't blindside someone by going above their head or around them. You go to them first. And again, you don't gossip with others. So that's number two, no triangles. I'm going to be responsible for this relationship, and I'm not going to try to navigate and manipulate. I'm going to open up a conversation, even though it feels scary. The third one is get clear. And this is probably, I'd say, the second most important, actually, even though I've got it as number three here, because what I see in my consulting work as part of the problem in organizations is a lack of clarity. And I don't mean just a lack of clarity in roles and responsibilities and in policies that aren't being looked at correctly. I'm saying the ability to, in my book, I'm calling this leadership clarity, the ability to actually clarify and articulate the problem. What did the person do or not do? Not just your story about it. Don't confuse facts with feelings. You're upset, you're angry, they've got a bad attitude. That's all very general. Until you can actually articulate the situation, the end result, and what's standing in the way. Until you can do that, you don't have leadership clarity. You're all over the place with your emotions. So you have to be able to clarify the desired outcome. So let me speak to the people who ask me a question. What do I do when I don't feel trust? What do I do when there's been so much disrespect? You clarify what the behavior is that's happening. They interrupt me. They roll their eyes. They slam down the phone, whatever. You clarify what's happening that you don't want to happen, but you also clarify and speak to what you want. Here's what I want. I would love to have a very trusting relationship where when I come to you, you tell me if you don't have time instead of roll your eyes and usher me out the door. You tell people what you want. You clarify. I call it speak to the vision instead of speaking to the shark. So we're talking about the island. We're trying to get to the island. And I'm telling you, here's what I want. I want a collaborative partnership. So you don't talk as much about what you don't want at the beginning. You actually clarify what it could look like if we got along. I hope that that helps. I know that's a lot packed in there. That's a whole program in and of itself, but clarity is key. You have to be clear about your own mental, emotional, and intellectual state. You have to be clear about what you want. Clarity is key in building capacity. The fourth one is about releasing resistance. And so if anybody's joining us right now, if you don't mind, just put in where you're from, put your name, where you're from, and I'll check in here in a second. Release resistance. If you want, you can go to my YouTube channel, and I have all of they used to call them LinkedIn Lives. They're now calling this office hours. I have a whole program on resistance, and I'm going to just share a quick overview that resistance keeps us from having conversations. And there's three kinds of resistance. There's my resistance, like I know that I feel like avoiding. I know that I just want to appease. I know that I just want to end the relationship. That's my resistance. Once I get over that, I can observe they seem resistant. They're defensive. They aren't agreeable, and that kind of triggers me. So I notice their resistance. But the third level of resistance is resistance to their resistance. And what that means is I already know what they're going to say. They're upset, so now I'm upset. They're mad at me, so I'm mad at them, right? So that's the three levels. So go look for that if you want it. And I'm going to say, hi there. Hi, Paula. Good to see you again. Seeing a lot of people. I see Deanna. Quinn, hey, good to see you again. And Rob from Boston. Some people from Brazil here. Thank you. And Diana from New Jersey. So that's great. Thank you for checking in. So we've done so far, feel it, no triangles, get clear, release resistance. And the last one is to represent yourself. Someone says, this is my first live I've attended. I'm getting a lot out of it. We use LinkedIn Learning courses as professional development with my company. Thank you so much. Well, Danielle, I want to share this with you and share this with everybody. I have a program on anger management in the LinkedIn Learning where the companies pay for that. I also have several on difficult conversations. So if you want to go see those and add those to your list, then that would be awesome. So someone said, what's the second level of resistance? Okay, so there's your resistance, their resistance, and your resistance to their resistance. So there's three levels. And the third one's where we get messed up. We don't even know we're resisting. Hi there from Arkansas. Okay, so the last one is represent yourself. Representing yourself. What this means is you don't get to play power of attorney. You don't get to go to someone and say, everybody thinks this about you, or everybody knows you're hard to get along with. And if someone does that to you, that needs to be a warning sign. Ask them to represent themselves, not everybody else. That causes more conflict of trying to say, well, it's my boss that won't allow that. It's my colleagues that don't like it. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. Let me represent myself. We do that because we're uncomfortable and we don't have the capacity. So don't play power of attorney. Don't say everyone thinks. Don't say, I bet he or she felt this way. For example, if you see someone mistreating someone else, to say, this must have really hurt their feelings. You say, I cringed when I saw that because I wouldn't want to be treated that way. That's how you have the conversation and represent yourself in a way that allows that other person to be in relationship with you, instead of creating a triangle where you're trying to rescue someone else that has choices. And so we can still support, we can still be allies, we can still be there for other people, but we need to avoid getting into that really hurt their feelings. I'm okay with it, but it really hurt their feelings. This is what everybody else is saying. We have to be really, really careful about that kind of stuff. Hi from India, and hello from Bulgaria. This is great. Lots of people from all kinds of different places. All right, so represent yourself. Don't take on what doesn't belong to you. Do not take on things that do not belong to you. Encourage people to go straight to the source and try to stay out. This is really nuanced right here, so I don't want to get into a lot of detail about that, but I often have to say when I'm angry, does this belong to me? Like, especially, let me take it this way, because this will be safe. In family dynamics, like your mother is upset because your brother hasn't called, and like it's easy to get entangled and try to fix someone's emotional issues with other people, but you just need to encourage them to reach out. And if you reach out, it needs to be about your discomfort, about what you'd like to see, not about correcting someone else. So I'm going to give you those real quick just so you can take a snapshot or take a look at it. Again, here's the 5. Feel it, no triangles, get clear, release resistance, and represent yourself. All right. If there's any questions, I can answer some right now. We've got just a little bit of time. Um, see if there's any over here. Not seeing any right now. All right. So here's my call to action. If you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate it if you would just share this on your thread. Just share it so other people can see it. Hi there from Singapore. And no, I didn't address gaslighting, but that's very it's something that people do to try to rope you in. What I believe is that when you take these 5 tips and you get this clarity, that you won't succumb to that. When you really take responsibility for yourself, when you really represent yourself, when you listen for what I call irresponsible language, it's not as easy to be gaslighted because you'll hear it in the language. Why do others that have struggling go to others instead of how they feel? What is the underlying psychology at play here? Quinn, thanks for asking that. I haven't done research on it. I only have experience, so I'll share what my experience is of why others go to other people. My belief and my experience in observation is that number one, people are afraid of rejection or getting into a real fight, and instead they seek social proof. In other words, if I can get on the phone and tell you about what someone did to me and you agree, we now have something in common. It's juicy. And I get to play victim in my mind to where someone did me wrong and you agree with me, therefore we've got a bad guy, because real conflict is about letting go of the notion that there's this bad guy, that we're all in it together, that we all have different interpretations. And I've come to this belief, and I'm willing for it to change because I like to be open and elevate my consciousness. But I believe that most of our conflicts, it's not as much about the situation as it is about our interpretation of it. So if my interpretation is that I'm not strong enough to handle this, if my interpretation is that you're against me, and let me give you an example. I spent almost the whole day yesterday with my mother in the emergency room and has some AFib. So there's some problems going on, and this is part of dealing with the elderly. But I said to her, I said, when we get back to your house, I'm going to change out your medicine. And she said, no, I can do it. I could tell a fight was going to brew because she always thinks I try to take over. But the reality is she's got macular degeneration, cannot see, and I am responsible to be her caregiver and power of attorney. And so I just said, listen, I know this can turn into an argument. I have reasons for why I want to do things a certain way because I communicate with your doctor. And so right now, this is how it's going to be. And I set a boundary. And although that sounds harsh in a way, this is what came to me. Sometimes when you care enough, you have to be willing to have the argument. You have to be willing to set a boundary, or you have to be willing to stay in the conversation. Well, given 8 hours at emergency room, I didn't really have a whole lot of capacity left to have an argument and to say, why do you feel like you can do it? Let's talk about that. I just know what I have to do. So sometimes as a leader in any situation, you have to make decisions that won't be understood. And sometimes it'll seem disrespectful, and you can always deal with that later. But yeah, interpretation and bent, that's right, Gail. We all have some interpretation of what's going on, and all we can do is question that. Um, Here's someone else that says, if we want to resolve it and talk about, but they don't, they are avoiding what to do in that situation. There's probably a lot of nuances in that, Yashika, but I would say that leave the door open and set a good intention. Like my intention for talking about this is I want us to resolve it, and we might be uncomfortable now, but we don't have to be in 2 weeks or even tomorrow. Let people feel emotionally safe is what I've found. When people trust me, then I can even have a bad day and they know me. And so I always want to give as much emotional safety as I possibly can and course correct whenever I don't. I know I can be aggressive. I know I can get triggered. And people that know me know that about me, and they know that I will clean it up and we'll be good. We're all good. We all have to give each other a little bit of grace. Oh, thank you, DNS. And this is really good stuff. So I'm asking you to just share this today on your thread if you liked it. Um, you can go to my YouTube video and see all the LinkedIn's that are the free ones. And yeah, thank you so much, Quinn. I do talk a lot about personal life and I share my own personal journey because I think leadership is not about one context. I think it's how we live life. And so everything, my mom has been my greatest teacher. And we, like last night, she said to me, she said, why do we fight so much? She said, I know I did that with my own mother. And I thought, oh my goodness, could I go into a lot of stuff? And it would be also easy to blame her. And I said, because we care and because we have deep history, and that's what people do when they get stressed. So that was my simple answer because it would be easy to try to get psychological and upset someone that doesn't have the capacity right now at this moment. But I love the question because it tells me that she's growing. It tells me that she's not just thinking it's always me, and it tells me that I'm able to have grace. So I do think, yes, it overlaps. Our personal and our professional life overlap very much. One more question. How do you deal with a passive aggressive manager? Oh, that's a whole course, but I think the same things apply. You need to ask for what you want. Just say, I noticed last week you did X, Y, and Z. This is how I interpreted it. Is that how you wanted me to? Because they will say, no, not at all. You're just too sensitive. People will almost always defend their actions. We all love to be right. We all have egos. So you just have to have the courage. It's I want to just reiterate over and over that we will never change other people, but through our own behavioral changes, we will see magnificent changes and the relationship will become more open. I saw that with my own relationship in when I worked in manufacturing. I was a factory worker for 21 years and I had an aggressive boss. You don't have any power at the front lines. And through some of these things I'm sharing and teaching and consulting on now, we changed our relationship. Did I ask him to change? No. I set boundaries. I asked for what I want. I spoke about my experience. I spoke about what I would like for the experience to be, and it changed. It takes a lot of courage because it's scary, and that's not the way most of us do things. But I hope that you will try one of these 5 tips, and please go on my thread. Let me know how it worked out, or email me and let me know how it worked out because that is the icing on the cake. That's why I do this stuff. So you can follow me here on LinkedIn, get reminders about the next upcoming ones, which I've already said I'm going to do one on boundaries. It's going to be a deeper dive into part of my anger management class on LinkedIn. And it will be one where it's an opportunity to actually be more engaged. It's more like a workshop. There'll be a handout. It's a little bit more. So there is going to be a fee to that. I'm still going to do free things as well, but that's there for you. I think it's only for US, unfortunately, because they're rolling this out. But you can follow me and you can go to www.marlenechism.com and you can sign up on my newsletter to get other updates about the book. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next time.